Hey y'all, welcome to RawbutReal.
What up, though?
It's your girl, Rhea in the building. You know, we gotta work on our intros.
We do.
No, we don't.
Because you like when I say what up, though. You know I be waiting to say that. What up, though? Y'all will know why if y'all
shameless plug for the other. Ain't no shameless plug. They know you're part of What Up, Though Pod Talk. He has another. It's the Quincy Jones of podcaster, y'all. Bro is doing his thing. But this is, as you can see, G Baby's not here.
Yes.
Super producer Rico is behind the scenes as usual. Now, G Baby's gonna be out, but we have a special guest. This is my nephew in love, because people be like, "That's your blood nephew." You ain't got. So just for clarity, yes, this is my nephew. You can introduce yourself.
What's up, y'all? I'm Marcell. As she said, I'm the nephew in love. I'm happy to be here. I think it's gonna be a good conversation today.
Yes, we are. So y'all know what it is. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month. I've been saying it all month. It's only what day?
The 14th?
The 13th or 14th?
13th. Yesterday was the 12th, so it's 13th.
So, yes. I have been waiting because a lot of things go on in families. Ooh, I'm turning into y'all. Setting myself up wrong. Okay, there we go. A lot of things go on in people's personal lives. And you never know. Like, looking at my nephew, he's a handsome young man, educated. Yes, he's handsome. Y'all leave him alone. No. Handsome young man. And through life, he's had some challenges. And I wouldn't be talking about it if he wasn't ready to discuss it, because I feel like it's a calling. I think he feels that as well. It's a calling on his life. He knows it's a calling on his life. Because God has spared his life. Not once, but twice. God has spared his life. So that's what we're going to delve into. You know, we're going to try to keep it light. If y'all see me cracking a joke inappropriately, it's just how I cope. Doing stuff, okay?
Yeah, because she'll start crying. So.
Yeah, I get emotional.
Yeah.
I've had an emotional day. I just came from a viewing. Not shout out, Lord. Prayers up for the Hearns family. That's my church family. My church member lost her son, and my friends, that's their brother. So just UG family. This is my Union Grace Church home. We lost.
Yeah. Shout out. I'm not scared.
Right.
Just right like
we be saying shout out.
Prayers up, man. Just prayers up to everybody, because we lost a good friend. Got the call yesterday morning.
Yeah, I saw.
So that, yeah. I don't know. I want to say his name right now, but shout out to. Prayers out to him and his family.
Right, we keep saying we don't
mean
it like that, y'all.
Who tapping in, y'all know that Sis decided this month we was talking about mental health awareness. So we're going to touch bases on different types of mental health. And last week we talked about suppression, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, so
suppression can cause depression.
Depression, right. And so our guest here can speak on basis of the mental health awareness. So that's why he's here. He opening up for us to share with y'all. And y'all see the number up top. If you have any questions, or if you're going through something yourself, dial in, because we want to be open. It's an open book. We are not doctors. We don't have all the answers. But we are here to spread the word and help out as much as we can, because we all going through something. Even myself, what I just learned and I didn't know, but that silent stress is a mental illness, or a mental illness that can cause death. But so
headaches. I've had it. Now when I look back at certain things, I'm like, what? Because I don't realize if I'm depressed, stressed. You don't notice it a lot.
Yeah. That's why awareness is important. Yes. You got to be self-aware and present enough. A lot of times we're not present. That's why we overlook a lot of that stuff, because our mind is somewhere else. We thinking about the next couple moves we need to be making a lot of times. And it's important to be present, man.
Because it's chess, not checkers. That's what we always taught. Like, keep moving. Keep going.
Yeah,
know your next step. Yeah. Have a plan A to Z. Like, this is what we're taught. So, and it's not a bad thing. I don't want people to think it's a bad thing to plan, but sometimes you can overthink to the point you sabotage yourself.
Yeah.
You just thinking way too, like, it ain't even happened yet, and you thinking, what if this happened? What this is like, calm down.
That's me. That's me.
Yes.
Overthinking, you thinking about the outcome, and you ain't even got to the situation yet, or you haven't even let enough of the cards play out to predict the next move, and it's like, that's a sense of having control.
Yes.
And the only thing you can control is you, how you respond versus how you react.
That's good.
Share with us a little personal situation with you that you've been through, what you've been going through.
Share your testimonies
as you put it, the testimony.
So about 8 months ago, this was last September. Well, I'm gonna go back before that. So leading up to that point, I was just in a season where I was extremely stressed out. Things just were compiling, and I was at a point where I noticed that I couldn't feel. I knew something was off, but I didn't know exactly what it was, and I started to isolate. And that took place at the time. Me and my significant other, we were going through a lot. I was going through a lot at work. It was just a real rough season, and I couldn't figure out how to cope with it. So I just kept, putting it on the back burner, and as a man, keep going, go to work, show up every day, continue to perform, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point where I couldn't really do that anymore. At the time, also, you would think, I had a lot of things to be grateful for. I was working. I had a pretty decent job. I had just found out I was having a child. So you would think, that's something to be celebrated, and it is, but I couldn't enjoy it. Yeah. I knew something was going on, because I'm like, I should feel different than what I was, and I was like, I don't know. So I kept trying to just brush it off, keep moving, and hopefully get to a point where I was gonna feel better. And no, it didn't. Me and my significant other, we were to a point where it was just building up. It was building up, and I did reach out for help with a therapist, and that was in the beginning, and it really didn't help at that time because I wasn't interested in it.
You reached out on your own?
No,
some people.
My significant other, she reached out for me, and she was on my head because she wanted me to, get the help, because I had a job to do. At the end of the day, I was supposed to be a provider. I was supposed to be a father at the time, and I couldn't see none of that. You know what I'm saying? And at one point it was like, all right, bet I gotta tighten it up. I gotta figure it out. But that particular thing was too big for me to do on my own, and I couldn't see that at the time. So fast forward, things started to get worse and worse for me. I started to detach more and more and more. I've always been a person that, love God, spiritual, went to church. I've served in many different capacities for a couple of years. I've preached, I've taught, I've done a lot. And I got to a point where that wasn't even working for me. I couldn't feel God anymore. I remember I got to a point where I'm in church, and my spirit was just irritated.
God bless you.
I didn't want to be there. So I stopped going. I cut everybody off. I would go weeks without talking to anybody. Not talking. And I was just in my own world. Yeah. And it really got to a point where I don't know what your spirituality is, but if you believe in God, you got to believe in the evil. You got to believe the devil is out there. And it got to the point where I was seeing myself die repeatedly every day. Like multiple times a day. And I'm like, bruh. It was to the point where
hold right there. When you say you saw yourself die, was it different type of deaths, or every day was it just a different type of way of dying?
Different types of death. Multiple ways, car accidents, being shot, arguing with people, somebody killing me killing myself, overdosing on drugs, and it kept happening over and over and over. I'm daydreaming, and I'm seeing it repeatedly. I'm driving, and I'm seeing this I'm having flashes of me getting into a bad car accident. And I was literally being tormented day in and day out for weeks at a time. Nobody knew. And
Didn't have a clue.
I sat there and I'm like, dog, I got to figure it out. And I remember I was at work one day and I was trying to figure out what I was having. And I kept thinking about, okay, I'm about to be a dad. All right. I'm going to just say it. I was married. I'm still married. And at the time, it was so bad. Like, I'm trying to find different reasons to hold on. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my family members. It wasn't my pastor. It wasn't my friends. It wasn't my wife. And I was holding on to the hope of just, all right, I want to be a great dad. And I remember I'm at lunch at work one day, and I had like a premonition. And now, mind you, I said I was thinking about what I was going to have. I didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl. This was before we found out. Mm-hmm. And God told me, clear as day, it was going to be a girl. Mm-hmm. So for whatever reason in me, I kind of just bucked up. I was like, I got to figure this out. But it still was hell from that point forward. Mm-hmm. And things continued to just go downhill. I could not cope with what was going on. I was trying my hardest. And it got to the point where I remember I left the house, didn't come back for a week. So I'm bouncing around to hotels, and
isolation.
I'm struggling literally. And I was a CPL holder at the time. I went to Belle Isle one day. I wrote a note to my wife. I wrote a note to my unborn child. And I was going through my head. I'm like, do I want to write a note to everybody? And I was like, no. And I sat there for a couple hours. I had the gun on my lap. Mm-hmm. And I sat there for about 8 hours, trying to reconcile with myself, trying to come up with different reasons why you need to be here. I couldn't. And the only thing I kept trying to hold on to was the fact that you have an unborn child. And I was asking God, like, bruh, I need to feel something. Because I couldn't feel nothing. So, fast forward, I make it out of that day. Because day in and day out, it was a battle. So, it was like every day it was something different. It was a different fight. And I remember, me and my wife at the time, we got into we were separated at the time. And I was trying to figure out, all right, well, maybe if we kind of hash it out, maybe that'll give me some extra hope. So we had a conversation one day that went left. And I was like, the straw that broke the camel's back. I remember it got so bad because I was holding on by a thread. And it got so bad to the point where I remember when I walked out of the apartment, I had never felt anything like this. I was just like empty. It was almost like I stepped into this void. No emotion, no feeling, no nothing. I was like, I started to panic. And I remember I get in the car. I sat there. Because I knew at this point, this is do or die. So I'm like, who can I call? I called my pastor. Fortunately, he was busy at the time. He texted me right away, though, and was like, I'm doing some work right now. You good? And I was like, in my head, I'm like, tell him.
You couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it. I just was like,
yeah, I'm good.
No, I told him. I sent him was the password to my phone. So at that point, I got the gun in my hand. And I'm tussling. I'm trying to figure, all right, well, I can't do it no more. And I recorded a video. And I was telling whoever unlocked my phone and saw the video, tell my daughter my story. Don't sugarcoat it. But let her know I loved her, but I couldn't do this anymore. And I put the phone down. I couldn't do that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, if there's any hope, where would you want to shoot yourself if you was going to give yourself an opportunity to make it? I saw myself shooting myself in the head. I couldn't do that. I couldn't picture that. And I remember I put the gun in my chest. And I'm sitting here. It's almost like it's literally a tug of war. And I'm struggling. And at the last second, I see somebody out the corner of my eye, and I look up, and my wife is on the phone, and I pull the trigger. So I see her eyes get big, and I'm like, I hear this flash, and I see this smoke. She come running to the car, and I roll the window down. I don't even know.
Still functioning at this point.
I'm still like it's gonna blow your mind when I tell you how alive I was in that moment. Even though on the inside I felt dead, I felt every bit of everything in that moment. So she gets in the car. I'm just like, I'm sorry. And she like, it's okay. I'm coaching her on what to do to not let me bleed out. So I'm telling her, like, put pressure on the wound, call the police. So you're on that phone with the ambulance or with the 911. And I knew she was in shock because she wasn't telling them the directions right. So I'm like, no, we're here.
And you calm.
I'm calm. But I knew, looking back, I'm like, that wasn't nothing but God.
Exactly.
The whole entire time. I'm calm. I'm telling her. So after she get off the phone with the ambulance or with 911, that's when the pain started kicking in. So I'm in there screaming. I'm like, but she trying to take the pressure off. I'm like, do not take the pressure off because I don't know if I'm going to bleed out. And I'm like, if you want an opportunity to save me, put the towel there and don't move. I don't care how bad I scream. So I'm in there. The ambulance get there within like 5 minutes, if that. They get in there. They checking for an exit wound, no exit wound. But the bullet is still stuck in my back. And he grabbed it. He like, can you get out? I said, yeah. So he pulls me out. I'm standing up on my own 2 feet. He walks me to the cart. All I know is I'm getting super tired. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, if I go to sleep, I'm probably not waking up.
Yeah.
So I'm fighting. And there was a moment where I started to panic when they put me in the back of the truck. I see a bright light. And I'm like, I really started to panic then because I started to taste blood. So I'm like, this is it. So I'm like, I'm telling them, I'm like, whatever you need to do it now because if I know if I go to sleep, I'm not waking up. And I kept asking, I said, can I go to sleep? Luckily, there's a hospital right up the street from where we stayed. So they get me there. I'm in the back. I'm steady telling them. And the pain is excruciating. I'm feeling every bit. I thought I was in pain before. But this was a different kind of pain. Yeah. Niggas that be acting like they thugs and want to be shot. You stupid.
The actual shot don't hurt. It's afterwards. Afterwards, and when you get to the hospital, that shit, all that hurt. Because sometimes, like you say, you don't even know. Some people got shot, didn't even know they got shot.
They got shot.
Yeah.
So, and for you, when you did it, the initial shooting, you was so calm and didn't feel nothing. But it wasn't until afterwards, after you was going through all that. Now,
that's nephew.
That's deep, man.
That's
because what I want to back up on for those who just tapping in, we talking about mental health awareness, and we have a special guest here who took it far as wanted to take his own life. So let me, what I want to share with everybody, share with the people how old you are, bro, and when did this happen?
I'm 33. This happened last year, September 15th.
Yep.
32 years of age, man.
Well, 32. Yeah, when's your birthday?
Yeah. So it doesn't matter the age, evidently. So when you think you got it together, we know a lot of people. Like I'm 53, and I never came across thinking to that point. Yeah. But I want to ask you myself on a personal level. Do you remember what triggered you? Like when you hit that point where you know how you going through life and everything good. What was it? Do you remember at that moment when you was like, damn?
Well, you kind of said it, but I don't want it to feel like it was. When you said the straw that broke the camel's back, it was that.
Well, even before then,
it was a culmination.
Before it broke the back, before, like when you got to you said, man, I'm sick of this. I'm just sick of what I'm going through. To have that thought process,
I couldn't see the light. Yeah. It was a culmination of things. Like we were saying before. The not paying attention to the stressors, not being able to manage them. It all starts up here
in your mind. because you also stated you had a fair good life, right? You had a good job, and you were married at the same time.
Expecting a baby.
And expecting a baby. It sounds like a great life to me. Like, what would push you to make you want to do that when everything going well for you? When
then that's what we want to talk about.
Yeah,
that it doesn't look the way that you think it's gonna look.
Just because the way the picture.
Just because of how somebody is, or you think how they should feel.
And I did want to ask this: the baby girl. Y'all had her?
She's fine.
Okay, good. Well, that's okay.
Beautiful.
Great.
That's so. That the thought of her coming when I was after I pulled that trigger, that's what kept me fighting, because before that I felt like I had nothing in the tank, and sometimes you don't know what you have left until you don't have nothing left, and that's the only thing I kind of like was thinking about. Like, all right, I'm here now. In my mind, I'm like, I'm at the point where I don't have no choice but to trust God. And with these doctors, and they got to do their thing, because I don't know what's gonna happen once I get in that hospital. So when I got to that hospital and I'm in there screaming and hollering like, do something, because if I go to sleep before, my fear was if I go to sleep before y'all do what you need to do, I'm not waking up. I know I'm a cold. I felt it.
Okay, now right there, because don't get me wrong, I ask these kind of questions because I don't know. And
Right. So we want to.
Before you pulled the trigger, it was you didn't have no care. It's over with.
It shook you.
But when you shot yourself and pulled the trigger, now it's like, I care. Like, oh, well, wait a minute, I'm not ready to go. Like,
it's in a sense woke you up.
It was like so the spot I picked, because I got asked this question before, but why typically
I think I asked it.
they want to shoot you in the head. You gonna shoot yourself in the head.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see myself doing that. Right. But I flipped the coin. I said, well, if I'm supposed to be here, I'll live. If I'm not, I'll go. And I didn't know if I was gonna live or die in that moment. It was my only thought in that moment was keep breathing. I didn't want to die in front of her. I didn't want to.
Where were you when you did it? It was at home in your driveway?
In the parking lot. It was at the apartment complex.
And she came out right at the time you did it.
Because I think what happened was my pastor called her after I sent him that message. And she came outside to see if I was still out there. Because when I went outside originally, I'm like, if I pull off, if I leave, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I knew I was at the end of my rope. I knew that feeling that I had. It was so empty. It was so dark.
And you didn't want her in that. And that's why I didn't want to talk too much about, because she's not here, so I didn't want to.
Right.
But we won't talk
We
much
won't
on
go
her
too
part
much
with
into
that.
it, but it's.
But I want to share with you what you said, something that I have been experiencing the last 2 months. And the scary part hearing it is because I can relate to you to the fullest when you say you're a spiritual person. You was going to church, and when you went to church at that moment, you felt empty even with going to church. I felt that 2 months ago, and I stopped going. I used to go to church.
When he said that, I felt that on you.
Yeah,
I felt it.
When you say, I got the chills.
I felt it.
Because it was like, I was going to church every Sunday. I was actually going to different churches. I was into church so tough. And it got to the point, 2 months ago, I would go to church, and I was like, man, I'm feeling so empty. Like, I'm not feeling it. So I say, is it me, just this moment? I went 3 weeks in a row. Same thing. I was like, I'm not going to go no more, because I'm just coming here just like saying I went to church. I'm not going to do that no more. So I stopped going. It's been 2 months I ain't been to church. You know what I'm saying? And for you to say that, like, that kind of bothered me, because now I'm like, shit. Like,
it's all in the spirit.
You know what I'm saying? Even what we talked about with the stress and not knowing, you just thinking about different things. Like, and I just started experiencing the last couple of days this silent stress. Because I don't feel it. I never feel like I'm going through nothing. And for us to be spiritual people and know we believe in God, you had people who love you. You had your pastor, you had your family, you had your wife, and you still felt empty.
Yeah.
So there's a message in that. Because you can't seek love outside, you have to love you first. I don't care what they did. I couldn't feel none of it. I couldn't see it.
Right.
So afterwards, I got to the point where I had to start thinking like, okay, I can't depend on them to make me feel loved.
Yes.
That's not gonna work. And when you get to that point and you realize, okay, I have to first fill me up. I have to love on me first. What they give me is just a plus. Now I turn to him and let him give me everything that I need as far as love. Now, again, everything they give me is a plus now. But when you don't know how to love you, nobody can ever love you enough when you don't know how to love yourself first.
And people they think it's something when it's nothing wrong with admitting to yourself. Some days you have good days, some days you have bad. We are so into I'm this, I'm that, if ain't nobody gonna love me, I'ma love me. A lot of people say that, but they don't feel it. Yeah. So for you to be brave enough, number one, and I've been crying the whole time, I know y'all can't tell, but
I could tell, I could see it. She wiped her face
trying,
1,000 times.
But the braveness that you show and the age you are, and you know you loved. Like, we are all brought into each other's life for a reason. Yeah. We're not blood. But this young man, I have watched him grow. You had to been, 10? Not even 10, 8?
Somewhere around there, I think.
Like,
yeah, because you old, sis.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I'm very old. So to watch him mature and to have a relationship with Christ and for God to spare your life, it's a blessing within itself. All right, did I say something funny?
Well, yeah. No, I can't say nothing funny. It's touchy for me because I can relate to a lot he's saying. I never got to that point where I wanted to take my own life or nothing like that. But I'm glad you're here to share this with us and our viewers because it's needed. And if any of our viewers, if you want to call in, if you felt at that point, you could be anonymous. You don't have to say your name. We won't ask you. Call in and share your story real quick. Make it brief because so other people can realize you're not alone.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? He just shared with you basically what he went through, what it was, and it took him to get all the love from God first and love himself first.
And it's still a process.
Yeah. It's a process.
It's an ongoing process.
That you gotta walk.
Yeah, I mean, because that was just a year.
Out.
That's still fresh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, well, let's just speak on that while we're talking about it. Because even after all that took place, you go through the recovery. And, of course, a lot of questions was asked, I'm sure. Because I commend you right now to be able to come here a year later and sit and talk about your story with that because it's needed. Yeah. But you have your little girl. God is good.
God showed him it was going to be a girl.
Yeah, they changed your life because mine straightened my life up too. But she made me stop doing wrong when I had my little girl, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's a beautiful thing. But after you realized all that and God spared your life, when you were in a hospital, what was your thoughts, moving forward, knowing that you attempted this and God spared you? So what did you say to yourself to say, from this point?
Because at what point, and I'm sorry, at what point did the hospital get involved and say, hey, okay, we want to do, I know they want to do all kind of tests, psych evals, this, and that. And the first step is to admit that you need help. Yeah. So at any point did they feel like you needed to be on medication, those, like stuff like that, if you don't,
so that's when the real fight really actually started. So I remember a few days after I woke up, because it's a lot of it is still a blur. So I think I was like just out of it for like the first 2-3 days. From what my family had told me, I coded. Well, so the night when I got there, they had my blood pressure had dropped and they couldn't get it back up. And they had called my family back in. I don't know none of this is going on.
Yeah, they called them back.
But they said all of that turned around, right? So after that, I woke up and waking up in a hospital bed, you don't know what's going on. I was out of it. I'm intubated, which means I had a tube in my throat and I wasn't breathing on my own.
Yes.
I'm strapped to a bed.
Yep.
So imagine waking up to that. You can't move. You don't know if you're in purgatory. You don't know if this is real, what you're seeing. and I'm confused. Yeah. So I'm looking around the room like, what is going on? Like, what happened? Was that a dream? Was it real? Right. I'm not really feeling pain or anything like that. I feel weird, but it's like, So those first couple days, I got people coming in, they visiting me. I still don't know what's going on. I can't talk. I can't articulate myself. And I remember one day in particular, my I felt a deep sense of fear. I don't know why. I just was scared. Mind you, I can't talk. I can't articulate myself. And I remember my wife was in the room, and she was I needed something. I don't know what it was. And she was like, okay, well, since you can't talk, try to write it. Mm-hmm. I looked down on a pad, because she was like, what is this? I look at it, it's nothing but scribble. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking I'm writing words, but no, I couldn't. So I'm pissed. I'm crying because I'm like, I can't talk right now, and this is pissing me off. I don't know what's going on. And so at this point, I'm like, oh, man. And I remember that next couple of hours, I couldn't see for whatever reason. And I'm thinking I'm dying at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling this fear. I'm feeling this presence, and I couldn't call out what it was. And I remember in the room, there was somebody just telling me it was going to be okay. I couldn't see their face. I just seen like a shape, and I seen shapes that was coming in. And come to find out, it was my wife. She was actually telling me it was going to be all right, but I couldn't see her face. So I'm thinking it was an angel. So I felt like I was in between here and the next life. So later that night, I remember I went into they put me in a different part of the hospital. I'm still intubated. I'm in pain, and I see this figure standing off into the side of the room. And I know what it is. I can feel death sitting there waiting, and I can hear the enemy steady telling me, give up. You ain't gonna make it. They came in here, don't worry about them. They don't care about you. This is all for show. Repeatedly. And this was a defining moment in my faith. Yep. And this was a defining moment as a man, because I had to make a decision. Either you gonna give up, because you shot yourself, but you still here. But you have an opportunity to fight again. So I told the devil, I said, I got something for you. And I just went and started praying. I closed my eyes, and I played the blood of Jesus over my life, my body. And I told the devil literally he had to flee. I couldn't sleep for at least 2-3 days. It was off and on. I was stressed out. And that fear, immediately when I told the devil he had to get away from me, immediately he left. And when I closed my eyes, I never felt nothing like this. But I saw the face of Jesus when I closed my eyes. And from that moment, I was good.
What did it look like?
It was almost like it was almost like
did he have a beard?
An imprint.
Listen,
and it was like I was like a shade. It was like a shade. It was like an imprint. I couldn't see like skin tone or anything like that, but I felt it.
It's a feeling.
And from that moment, he was putting people in place, even the nursing staff, because the hospital I was at was terrible, completely terrible.
I was like trying not to talk about all of that part.
This is
like,
dope.
How much you want to talk about?
Hey.
For those who tapping in, again, we are talking about mental health awareness this month. Last week we started, and each week is going to be something different. If you're just tapping in, we have a special guest here who's at the age of 33 now, who attempted to take his life because of the stresses he was going through. Again, if you're watching, if you're a person who experienced this or attempted this, please give us a call just to share with the viewers and us here at the table, because I know there's more people out here who've gone through something, who thought about doing this. This young man brave enough to come on here and share this with the world mean a lot to me. And I want to ask you, now that you lived and you saw God, did you ask God for your forgiveness?
Oh, definitely.
Since that happened?
Definitely. While I was in there, I had to come to grips with what happened. The first thing that I asked was, I'm asking for forgiveness, because the thing that blew my mind was, here I am trying to take a life that I didn't give myself.
Right.
So there came shame.
Yep.
There came, feeling disgrace because it's like you've given me this life, you've given me abilities that I know you didn't give anybody else, and yet I wanted to throw this life away. Who am I to have a second chance?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I have a studio guest audience member that is anonymous.
But,
okay, thank you.
No, this is real deep, man. I really do commend you.
Yes.
And no question is stupid, so don't get me wrong with those. Y'all might ask stuff like that, but I'm real direct, cutthroat, so I don't want you to get offended.
No, you good.
No kind of way, because I always try to figure out for those who, and I don't know, attempted suicide or being in that position, I never could understand it when that's something that's promised to us anyway.
But death.
Like death, we all got that day coming, so to want to rush it, and again, coming from a spiritual man that's in believing God, that's scary, man. You got to understand, you a man of faith, you believe in God, you had a lot going on in your life, and then bam, it triggered you to want to take your life. So that scares me. I'm not
That's
gonna lie.
when the enemy attacks the most. You notice, being spiritual and having faith. You know when you get closer to what you're supposed to be doing,
Right.
it's going to be 10,000 things that go wrong. The enemy, that's the first thing when you say shame. Enemy is it's a trick. And you have to be strong enough. A lot of people, I have 3 off the top of my head that I know that took their lives and didn't, 2 hung themselves. 1 shot himself in the head.
And these are people who didn't
These
make
are,
it, of course.
Of course.
Right.
That took, and I was pissed. Like, suicide is a selfish, and thank God if he had been gone, I would have been mad. That's just real reality.
Right.
I would have been pissed. I would have been like, you selfish, and you go through all these emotions because I've been through them already.
Yeah. That's a real thing.
And I'm loving your story, and I can feed off. I know I could take it as a lesson from God to
God is speaking
to wake me up. You know what I'm saying, with things. I never thought about taking my life again. I don't want nobody misconstrue what I'm saying. It's not on that level. But I'm looking at you. You're young. You had a vibrant life. You were a spiritual man, and you still was on that level like that.
It can
scared the average person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the enemy, because it can come in at any time.
Never
I get
think
what you're
untouchable.
saying.
Never think you're above it, because a lot of people who go through those type of situations, they never thought about death. They never thought about or felt strong enough to take their life until you face with that moment, that thought, them intrusive thoughts, and it's like, dang, you know.
And the enemy will have you being ashamed and feeling like, I can't discuss this. People gonna think I'm crazy. People gonna think this. Or they gonna handle me with kid gloves, and they don't want to say certain things to me. Anybody know his family know they pretty direct. All brothers, you know, his father's very active in his life. Is not so. I want to give that background. So people had this painted picture of what they think mental health looks like, and that's why I asked him. I think we talked about it last month, and I said, "Well, let's wait till Mental Health Awareness Month to share this, because I feel like it's impactful." You know, on RawbutReal, we say a lot. I'm not gonna cry again. I'm gonna try.
I can hear your voice is cracking. You about to start crying again.
I just love my family. That's all, because this is the family that I chose.
From a good family.
Yeah,
and everything he been.
It's
loved.
not blood; it's chosen. Like we was meant to be. In this moment
and
right
you know
now.
That's
how I look at stuff.
What's so ironic about this, you know, God is good. I just told my kid's mother last week, I say, if something ever happened to me and they say it's suicidal, do an investigation, because I would never in my life
Now,
do that.
if you really want to be very raw, I really thought something else was going on. Because I didn't know. I was like, who shoots himself in the chest? I was like, what? Where was she at? No disrespect, but I didn't. Look,
you thought, right, and that's black people.
Like,
that's what we do.
Yeah. Where's she at?
That's a natural.
I was
reaction.
upset. It's a natural reaction
to situations like that, and it becomes a real delicate thing, and it's the aftermath of it all can also be delicate, and you have to, coming out of that hospital, I didn't know what things was gonna be like, and you know, certain things happened while I was in there, and it was just like, you know, I kind of had to take that on the chin and realize, you know, everything that we do has an equal and opposite reaction. It has a consequence, whether good or bad, and you have to. The fallout over situations like that can be big.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It can be a lot to unpack. You know, it's multiple conversations that you have to have with loved ones because it affects everybody. It's not just affecting you.
Right.
And then we feel selfish for thinking about how it's gonna affect us.
Right. Yep.
You going through something, but everybody like thinking about what they could have done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we need to be thinking about Marcell. Like, this is Marcell. Not saying that was the conversations, but because your dad was a mess. I can't even. Your dad
from
was
from
a
what I
straight
hear,
mess.
you know,
he was emotional and we felt it.
Yeah.
But for him to break down the way he broke down, it did something.
Because I don't know your father, and I don't know what his thoughts be, but I know as a father, the first thing I would do is question myself.
And that's what he was doing.
You know, why would you do that? Was it me? Was I not a good father?
He's like, I'm trying to help,
you know,
and I'm like,
but moving forward, I know you do things daily to keep yourself on the right track. Do you ever think about a slip up or doing it again, or is it possible? And having a daughter, you only got the one child, right?
Yep.
Little girl. Okay. Do you plan on sharing this with her as she get older?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you going to talk with her about this as she get old enough?
Coming out, my goal was always from that point forward. The moment I woke up and I started thinking a lot better, my vision started to grow. And, you know, mental health advocacy was something that was on the top of my list. And the reason why people go through these type of things is because we're not taught emotional intelligence. We're not taught how to cope. We're not taught to really be mindful and aware and be present. So things, for me, for instance, things took place in my life from childhood through adulthood that began to compile. And when you're not taught to think a certain type of way or think better, learn how to sift through those thoughts, because scripture tells us it all starts here. You know, you got to cast those thoughts down, and you got to literally ninny pick at those thoughts, because if you don't, they fester, they stick, and they grow. Everything that comes into your mind is like a seed, and if you don't catch it, those bad seeds, it'll rot your land. And that land is your temple, your heart. That changes your perspective. It changes the way that you think, you operate, you feel, and it all starts up here. I didn't realize the importance of, one, that. Two, coming from where we come from, men in general and just men in the black community, we bury everything. I've always been the type of person that covers everything. Covers the way I feel. I don't care if you bother me a lot of the times. You never would know what's going on with me. Right. A lot of the times. You might think you're doing something, but I'm pissed at so-and-so. I'm pissed at this situation, and I'm brushing it off. And I come back and like, ain't nothing happened. But no, I didn't deal with that situation. So now it's showing up in other ways. It's manifesting in grief. It's manifesting in stress. It's manifesting in anxiety, not eating or staying up late. And these things are not talked about enough. So now you implode. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things that people have to start to understand is like, when you talk about mental health, what it actually encompasses. The first thing that I would say, like, start to do is figuring out how to love you more, because when you do that, you give yourself what you need. Because a lot of times the reason why people become stressed out, the anxiety hit, and the depression hit is because you're not even giving you what you need. You're pouring from a deficit. Yeah. You don't have enough on the inside to make yourself feel good. You steady chasing outside stimulation to feel good. And it's
trying
like
to
it's
make
not
others
enough.
feel good. So trying to make others feel good.
Are you a spiritual guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question and then a comment.
I was about to say, where you come from? First off, hello. We got a guest we got a guest that's coming in. We're going to get him mic'd up first. We're going to get that together.
You know he couldn't sit there with our ass once he saw what
Exactly.
the topic was about.
Like you just drove up here.
First, let me introduce y'all.
Yeah.
This. Oh, you mic'd up too? Yeah, this
I
is
love
a deep
it.
conversation.
Because it's the men. I love it. I love it.
Y'all who watching again, please stay tuned in. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. For those who don't know, again, we looking for somebody to call in. I'm gonna keep asking because I know it's so many people. With this young man up here speaking about this, he can't be the only one that's close. He's not, and we know it.
And even if you don't want, like Dice loves to have people call in because we want that action. But I know it's the DMs, it's the inbox. Everybody's not there. Everybody's not there. But it doesn't mean they're not hearing us.
We don't know who you are.
It doesn't mean that they're not hearing us.
Right, I know they hear
It's bigger, right. It's bigger than just
nephew,
them calling in.
Nephew, this is my co-host for What Up Dope
What Up
Pod Talk. We come on Sundays from 6 to 7. This is Knowledge, a.k.a. Kwan, a.k.a.
That's
Gino. But, you know.
AKA Anonymous.
Yes, a.k.a. Anonymous.
So, but yeah, we talking about mental health awareness, and he came on to share a story about attempted suicide that he.
This is my nephew.
Yeah, that he tried. Yeah, so.
So I got a brother-in-law who actually committed suicide.
He didn't make it.
No,
Okay.
Yes,
he didn't make it. It was really, really deep. One of the reasons why I asked you, were you spiritual? I heard you saying, some things about seeing angels, talking about Christ and everything. It's a few things that, scripture. I'm going to trade this in. It's a few things that the scripture tells us. And one of the things is in Romans 12:1. And we have to make ourselves like a living sacrifice and acceptable unto God. And that's by not conforming to this world, you know what I'm saying, and all of the heaviness and the stress in this world, but be ye therefore transformed by the renewing of our minds. So we talk about mental health, right?
Yeah.
And we have to continue to change, continue to grow. 33, right? So you're still a young man. But for 33 years, right, you've been living in sin, right? Or however many years, you've been doing everything that your flesh told you to do.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So when he says to renew your mind and make yourself a living sacrifice, and not be conformed to the things of this world, now we have to make ourselves a living sacrifice. So now you got to, after 33 years of doing what this flesh told you to do, now you got to build your spirit up to be stronger than your flesh. Because it's not actually, I know, and a lot of people say it is, but it isn't. A lot of people say it's a sin to commit suicide, but show me that in the scripture, right? But
I gotta find
I would say this.
because he always challenged me.
You see, I would say this though, it's not wise. So if you go to Ecclesiasticus, right, 30:21, it says, "Give not over thy mind to heaviness, and afflict not thyself in thy own counsel." So don't afflict yourself on your own thoughts, right? We ain't supposed to be doing our own thinking anyway. We ain't supposed to be leaning on our own understanding. We're supposed to be leaning on the understanding of the scriptures. You see what I'm saying? So that's what we got to do, especially as black men. We got to bring it back to God. How many times am I going to say that? Bring it back spiritually.
Several times.
And I hear what you're saying, and I'm not dismissing it, but I'm saying he's been a minister. Sometimes you can have all the scripture in the world and have that feeling, but it's still things that can come up against you. And I don't want people to feel like you're not spiritual enough, or you're not reading the Bible enough, or you're not doing this enough, and that's why you're having these thoughts. That's not always what it is. The enemy sometimes wants to destroy your life because he sees. The enemy can see too.
I think you got it a little misconstrued of what I'm saying. So it's not that things aren't going to come at us. This is what we've been doing for however many years. And so now it's time to
break that cycle.
You got to break the cycle.
cycle.
I agree.
and
That's a
balance the scale.
That's a big part of it, but at the same time, like even if you know the scripture or you don't know the scripture, at the same time, we are the book. The
That's
book
right.
comes from us. So I could actually, if I want to go back and look, I can actually find it in the scripture. But far as just to look at our genetic makeup, the first law of nature is self-preservation. So if that's the first law of nature is
Damn.
self-preservation, then that would tell you that committing suicide is something that you shouldn't do.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
You know
be
what I'm
literally
saying?
out.
Yep.
And to touch on it a little more, because I'm big on balance. So it's like it's different aspects of everything. And then let me add this first before I even go there. The mind is one of the most powerful things. And you have to look at it like, if you see a leaf or a piece of paper moving down the street, is that leaf moving? Is that paper moving? Or is it force that you can't see with your naked eye that's moving that?
Is it the wind?
So it's the same thing with our minds. Our minds is like, it's like it can take you anywhere. Like if you look at the water, our minds is like water. Like if you go out there and see Detroit River, sometimes no currents is smooth. But then sometimes when the currents are out of control, it can tear it. It can go from partying on the ship to it hurricaning and tearing it up.
Out of control.
That's the same thing your mind can do with your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes little things that trigger certain things. And then I know that you probably can relate to this too, Dice. And then I don't know his whole story, so like he probably can relate to this part of it too. It's a flip side to that part too. Like you can love yourself and you can love everybody else so much that you're giving so much of yourself to everybody else.
Exactly.
But at some point, if you're not feeling that love back in return, it can become stressful, lonely, dark, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because then you start to look at it like say you getting money, you grinding, you doing this, and everybody looking up to you. That you feel like they're showing you love. But at some point, if everybody is just take, but not giving you that real love that you need, then that can become a problem for you also.
That's partial my situation.
And guess
Definitely.
what? Not to cut you off like that, but when that happens, now you're Christ-like. What did they do to our brother? What did they do to Christ?
Right, what did they do to Christ?
He gave, and guess what? Was anybody giving back other than the spear in his side? You see what I'm saying? Other than him being betrayed by Judas, one of his closest brothers. You know what I'm saying? So now we Christ-like. And then here's another thing. Remember I said it was a sin, not in the Bible as a sin, but it is a sin because now when you think about what is one or the second of the greatest commandments is to love your brother and your neighbor, your kinsman in the flesh, as you do yourself, right? So if I love you, if I love you, if I love you, if I love you as I love myself, am I going to harm myself? Am I going to harm you? Now I'm making that non-void, right? Yeah. So we ain't supposed to be doing that. But I get what everybody is saying, but this is where it comes in, where Rico said, is balance in the whole thing. So if our flesh, for all of these years, we've been hard-headed Negroes all this time, now it's time for us to come back with our spiritual selves to make that stronger than this crap. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
And you got to pray for it.
That part too.
You have to put in time. You have to be willing to read. And I don't put nothing, like, yes, I am a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. We've had this battle before. But I'm not opposed to reading the Quran. I'm not opposed to understanding different religions. I just know what my root is, if that makes sense to everybody. Like, I don't dog it. I don't have a problem with it. But I know that
what
that's my belief.
The Muslims, I'm
not trying to change nobody's belief.
Way, Jehovah Witness, Baptist, Christian, but I know they all lead to one thing, and that's one God.
Exactly.
So it don't matter which route you take, as long as you seeking God.
Well, I ain't gonna say it don't matter. Well, yeah, that's.
I mean, whatever your choice is, as long as you seeking God in the end. But I want to say this for those who just tapping in, man. This has been so deep. I want to commend you again, brother, for sharing your story with us and our viewers about the attempted suicide. I'm glad you're okay, and you and your beautiful daughter, and you're moving forward. If you have not started yet, are you willing to speak openly to groups? Because I have a partner. Shout out to Vertanji Bailey. We got a big mental health awareness event we want to do, and a person like yourself, we would love to have you on the panel to share your stories with people that's experiencing things you went through, or maybe did what you did or tried to attempt. Because like you said, what I don't, and I guess I would never understand because I haven't.
Right, don't
I
try.
pray I never get to that point.
Yeah, don't try.
But your friends say again your 4 friends. How did they do it? You had 2?
2 that hung themselves. Now, mind you, they were 16. The 2 that hung themselves were 16.
Jesus Christ.
My other friend, she shot herself in the head. The other one was Lord Jesus, 21. So yeah, another shot in the head. So for me, it wasn't a cry for help. Like when you shoot yourself in the head, you know you don't see nothing. You don't see no hope at all. So they just wanted to end it, and we'll never know the reason behind it.
And nephew, you said Joe, who did that?
My brother-in-law
And how did he do his?
hung himself. Yep, he was a teenager too.
And see, that's the thing too. You got all these different ways that people, when they get to that point, like you said, when you struggle on which way you wanted to do it. You couldn't see yourself shooting yourself in the head, but you still felt like you wanted to take your life, knowing the chances are greater if you shoot, like you said, you shoot yourself in the head. But it's people who attempted, who shot themselves in the head and lived. Because, and again, and this is a sign to let people know.
Yeah, he tried to jump off a building.
And he
just broke his legs.
So God is in control. So with that being said, God spared your life. Do you know your purpose here now? That for him to spare you, to have you here, because no matter what you do, and that's why I want to ask y'all, like, how do y'all think and feel about that? If God is in control for those who attempt suicide and they do die, like, but for the ones who attempt and live,
that's
like,
a whole nother.
So according to scripture,
we don't get deep in it.
That's
we got
the whole month. I told you we're gonna be continuing this topic.
But just think about that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, well, our steps is pre-ordered and preordained. So he knew what we was gonna do before we came out the womb. You see what I'm saying? So he got a purpose. You see what I'm saying? He got a purpose in life, and whatever that purpose is, only you and the man upstairs know. It's up to you to find out what that is. Just keep going strong, and each one teach one. Now you got to let the next one know. So you got to put your testimony out there. You know what I'm saying? That ain't gonna do nothing but make you stronger. With us in here talking about it, guess what we doing? We having church because we admitted Christ in there, and he said, where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there he is in the midst of us. Right?
Opens the conversation, and it's a taboo conversation. People don't like to, and you have the other facets where we can go next week. Will be into the families, because a lot of people don't discuss because they don't want to embarrass their mom or their dad, or they feel like, why are you discussing this? People don't think I'm a bad parent, and sometimes,
but that's selfish because then now you want to think
reality.
about yourself. Though.
But that's reality.
You ain't think
about
taboo though,
because
that's reality.
Most of us have some form of mental issues. We just don't acknowledge it. That's why you have to examine. You have to examine yourself too. You know what I'm saying? To look at yourself. A lot of times we look at everybody else, but we have to look at ourselves and see what we're doing, how our thoughts, like some of the thoughts you say you were having, some of the thoughts that you say you were having, and then also sometimes it's building up that courage because like I had a friend, he would he witnessed his auntie kill his mother. Then his father had mental issues, lost his mind. So he was around his grandmother, but his grandmother was old, so he was raising himself. A lot of times when he came to holidays and stuff, I would go get him, have him with me or whatever. We hang out. I would open my family to him. He would talk about suicide and always talk about, I want to be with my mama. He know I lost my mother too. I just want to be with my mama. And people would think he's playing. And then one day it was a holiday. I forgot which holiday. And he had a AK and something else in his trunk. And we all drinking and stuff. And he was like telling me, grab that chopper out the trunk, take it to your house. But you know, I'm drinking, we all drinking. I'm like, well, should I get it tomorrow? So I didn't get it. That night he went to the house and shot himself in the head. But I didn't know it was about, you know what I'm saying? That he was just saying, I got it, you know, you can go ahead and grab it, pay me whenever or whatever. But that night he shot himself in the head.
Used the same gun? The one you supposed to take?
It was 2 guns that was laying next to him though.
Okay.
But he had them both in the trunk that day and was trying to basically give them to me like, you can give me some money later on or whatever. Just basically like just take them.
Like, get them out my way.
But it was
then,
so much going on, I ended up taking them.
And he could have been
like,
saying in his head, like how he was like, okay, if I'm meant to be, like people give you signs or they give you tests, and you don't know that they test, but you don't need to take on that stress and thinking something is your fault, you know, because I didn't see this or I missed this or the phone rang and I didn't answer. There's many situations like that.
Go back to what you were saying, like, you know, you start thinking like, well, what can I have done? Could I have done something different? And the truth of the matter is, you may never be able to do enough. Because when a person is convinced that I'm done, it ain't nothing that you're going to be able to do until they decide, I have some more left in the tank. You have to come to yourself. It ain't nothing a person can tell them to make them see differently. In that moment, probably wasn't nothing nobody could have did to tell me
dark
that.
Place. And people try to understand, like, how do you get to that dark place? It's not something that you're gonna.
No way.
Like you and I, we want to know, what is it? Well, what can you? It's nothing that you're gonna understand.
You know, but
it's
for
just
me,
a
it's the
dark
scary
place.
parts with, you know, sharing what he said, that the steps, and I'm feeling it. I'm going down that road, so it's like I'm like, wait a minute.
Now you can stop.
Yeah, like
you
okay,
know where the
this
curve.
You know, especially with the church thing, like I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That touched my spirit when you said that. I know exactly how you felt. I'm telling you, and people was like, friends of mine, like, you ain't going to church. I'm like, no, I don't want to. They asked me like, why? What's wrong with you? What's going? And I just blatantly tell them, like, I'm going through something. Like I go there, I'm not getting nothing from it right now. So don't pressure me either, because that's one thing I hate, to be pressured to something, because I flip out. But man, listen, man, this was great for me. If it wasn't for nobody else, our viewers or nobody else,
yes,
I appreciate you sharing your story. I hope it reached some of our viewers and helped some people out. This month, again, it's about mental awareness. So we need everybody to be aboard, help share. Please share this video to reach out to more people. I'm going to keep in contact with you
and
for events.
He was that, or this session was that ram in the bush for you. Whatever happened in your situation, that was the ram in the bush for you. When you was about to do that, a lot of times you just can be tested. You know what I'm saying? This is your test. Are you going to pass or not? Bam, you pass it, here come the ram in the bush that make you turn some other way. That's your testimony. That's the testimony that's given to you, and that's spreading out now.
I'm going to add one more thing. It's another aspect of it, too. Sometimes people are not pushed to that level where they would actually commit suicide to harm themselves. But sometimes people get to that point where they don't care if they live or die, so they would put themselves in situations
that
somebody else
might be on that
for them.
Now I think mentally I won't do myself. That's a good point.
I think that's more of the black majority side. Like I ain't gonna harm myself, but
you give up. You don't care so much, so you put yourself in a predicament. Like whatever happens, if I die, the outcome be I get killed. Oh well. But I'm not gonna do it myself, so I can relate to that.
Or because they don't believe in suicide, because you feel like I don't want to kill myself, right? So I'm gonna have somebody else do it.
Yeah. So you know, a lot of people. That's when they do that. What they call suicide by police.
When they try to put your arms up, they tell you,
and they do shit so the police can kill them
because they just want to go, but they don't have a.
I was at that place. I didn't care. It was situations, road rage situations. I'm like, this will. Whatever.
The anger.
When your birthday, bro?
Anger.
March 9th.
Pisces?
The Pisces.
Yeah, March 9th. Well, again, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dice Quincy Jones podcast. He is getting more and more comfortable.
You letting me talk?
I let him
I knew I could talk today because she was going to cry most of the show.
So I let him say
she didn't want to say too much because she started crying, so I had to.
But it flowed very well, so
no,
I'm
it did,
man. I'm glad.
So our viewers,
because I feel like this is more men need to get together, and maybe this can start, because it's every age group.
Yeah.
This is,
and I got you about 20 years.
And we need to get Jaden in here. Jaden G, baby, like that's the younger generation.
Yeah.
And we need to, more men need to be able to open up and speak freely, and talk about Christ.
Men die at a disproportionate rate when it comes to suicide or just by health complications, period, because we internalize stress, man. We literally are killing ourselves because we don't talk. We don't express.
Yeah,
emotions.
that's me. I think that's definitely me because I'm I don't know how to communicate, and I'm real stubborn, so I keep a lot of stuff to myself. But I also help so many people. And then, like you said, I don't know if it was Rico or but when I don't reciprocate it, it make me feel some kind of way. I get angry, and then I be shutting down. You know what I mean? It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack there. So you just. Oh, we got the whole what up though?
Listen, we
crew up here.
We appreciate y'all watching RawbutReal. Keep watching every Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Yes.
Again, this whole month it's about mental health awareness. So keep watching, stay tuned. Hopefully we can get somebody to call in who share their story, who's going through something, who's been through something, or if you yourself attempted suicide as well. I want to know. You can help people. I mean, this helping people.
I just I want people to speak freely because that's a very delicate situation.
It is,
and you're not ready. You can push somebody to a different levels.
And but that's why I was saying about him. I commend you for being only a year ago and to come on here and at the age you are, not even full year. We thank y'all for watching.
You don't close out this show. You close out what up though. I'm the boss here. All right, thank y'all for tuning in. That's how y'all do that.
Now you close out.
Yeah.
Are we closed?
Bye, y'all.
Y'all.